Welcome to our channel Crime Loom, the place where true crime stories come alive. Imagine waking up to hear that almost $1 billion vanished from a country's central bank. Overnight, no explosions, no masked robbers, no alarms, just silence. In March 2003, hours before the Iraq War began, something unbelievable happened inside the Central Bank of Iraq. Something so bold and so mysterious that even today, people still argue about how it was possible. This is the real story of how $1 billion slipped into the darkness. Ordered by one of the world's most feared leaders, carried out in complete secrecy, and partly lost forever. It is a story of power, fear, and a disappearance so large, it still shocks investigators. And it all began in one quiet night, just before the bombs fell. The story begins in Baghdad, in the early hours of March 18, 2003. The city is quiet, but everyone knows something terrible is coming. The United States and its allies are preparing to invade Iraq, and the entire government of Saddam Hussein is on edge. Inside the Central Bank of Iraq, one of the most unusual events in modern history is about to unfold. What happens that night will become known as one of the largest cash disappearances the world has ever seen. Employees at the central bank arrive to work as usual, even though nothing about this day feels normal. They are soon told that a special message has arrived from Saddam Hussein himself. The president rarely sends personal notes to the bank. So when the staff sees not one but 3 handwritten letters, they know it is serious. The letters are simple, written in Arabic, and carry Saddam's signature. The instructions are shocking, but clear. The central bank must immediately hand over nearly $1 billion in cash to Saddam's son, Hussein. The employees understand that refusing is not an option. Under Saddam's rule, disobeying such an order could cost a person their life. So the bank officials quietly begin the extraordinary task of gathering the requested money. In the underground vaults of the central bank sit stacks of US $100 bills and bundles of euros, all wrapped and sealed by the US Mint. This money represents a huge part of Iraq's national reserves. But tonight, it is being taken out as if it belongs to a private family. For several hours, workers move rapidly but silently through the vaults. They haul out boxes filled with cash, stacking them on trolleys and carrying them up to the loading area. Guards stand nearby, watching nervously. Everyone knows the war could start any moment, and the pressure is intense. Outside the bank, trucks wait with their engines running. These are not official armored trucks. They look ordinary, but they belong to Saddam's inner circle. Hussein arrives to oversee the operation. He is calm, serious, and in full control. The workers keep loading the money into the trucks, box after box, millions of dollars at a time. By the end, the trucks carry around 920 million US dollars, plus another 100 million euros. In today's value, it would equal well over $1 billion. When the last truck is packed, Hussein gives the order to move out. The convoy leaves quietly into the Baghdad night, just hours before American bombs begin to fall. The next morning, the world changes. The invasion begins. Explosions shake the city as the United States launches the opening strikes of the Iraq War. While the country collapses into chaos, the central bank workers say nothing about the missing money. They know exactly what happened, but they also know that exposing the truth at that moment could get them killed. So the $1 billion disappearance remains a secret. At least for a while, as US forces advance into Baghdad over the next weeks. They encounter fierce resistance, but eventually the Iraqi government loses control. Saddam and his sons disappear from public view. When American troops finally reach Baghdad and begin securing government buildings, they soon arrive at the Central Bank of Iraq. The bank is damaged from the fighting, but mostly intact. However, when US investigators enter the vaults, they quickly realize something is wrong. The shelves are almost empty. The money that should have been there, almost $1 billion, is gone. At first, the investigators think looters might have taken it because there was widespread looting throughout Baghdad. But the vault shows no signs of forced entry. There are no broken doors, no drilling marks, nothing. This was not a robbery done in secret. It was an official withdrawal carried out with the bank's own keys and authorization. Within days, U.S. intelligence uncovers what really happened. They learn about the handwritten notes from Saddam, the midnight loading of cash, and Qusay's involvement. It becomes clear that the largest bank robbery of the Iraq War was not a robbery at all. It was a government-ordered cash grab carried out just before Saddam's regime collapsed. For the next several months, American forces searched for the missing money. Rumors spread among troops that huge piles of cash are hidden somewhere in Iraq. Soldiers joke about it, but investigators take it seriously. They know the money could be used to fund insurgent groups or help Saddam escape. So they begin searching military bases, palaces, bunkers, secret rooms all across the country. The first breakthrough happens when U.S. troops storm one of Saddam's presidential palaces. Inside, they find rooms filled with luxury items, gold, art, and documents, but no massive piles of cash. Then, a few days later, soldiers enter a Republican Guard bunker north of Baghdad. What they discover shocks everyone. In a dimly lit room, behind stacks of ammunition, sit hundreds of metal boxes. When the soldiers open the first box, they freeze. It is filled with bundles of crisp $100 bills. Word spreads quickly. Troops keep opening box after box, and they are all packed with money. It is part of the missing billion. Soon, more discoveries follow. In another location, soldiers find cash hidden inside walls and buried beneath floors. The money is everywhere, stuffed into closets, tucked inside old vehicles, even piled behind false walls. Over time, the U.S. military recovers around $650 to $700 million of the stolen cash. It is an unbelievable amount, more than most countries keep in physical currency. But even after all these finds, something is still missing. Roughly $300 million cannot be located. No matter how many bunkers are searched, no matter how many buildings are raided, hundreds of millions simply vanish. Some investigators believe the missing money was smuggled out of Iraq. Others think it may have been burned or destroyed during the conflict. And some believe it fell into the hands of corrupt officials or criminal groups operating in the chaos after the invasion. To this day, that portion of the money has never been recovered. As the investigation continues, U.S. intelligence pieces together the full timeline. They confirm that Saddam Hussein personally supervised the withdrawal. They learn that some of the cash was intended to pay loyal soldiers and buy loyalty as the regime fell apart. Some of it may have been prepared as emergency escape money for Saddam and his sons. Other parts were simply hidden away without any clear purpose, possibly in the hope that the regime might one day return to power. But none of these plans worked. Qusay was killed by U.S. forces a few months later, and Saddam was captured at the end of 2003, even though much of the missing billion was recovered. The story does not end there. In the months following the invasion, Iraq fell into a state of confusion. Different groups tried to rebuild the government, and billions of dollars of U.S. and Iraqi funds flowed into the country for reconstruction. With so much money moving around, corruption became a major problem. Shockingly, some of the recovered cash from Saddam's billion vanished again, this time during the early occupation. Boxes of money meant for rebuilding Iraq were reported missing or misused, creating another financial mystery that still causes controversy today. But that part, while connected, is separate from the original disappearance. People around the world hear the story of the Central, the Bank of Iraq, and are amazed that something so huge could happen so quietly. Almost no one knew at the time that Saddam had taken nearly $1 billion in a single night. There were no alarms, no dramatic heist scenes, no criminals sneaking through vents. It was simply a ruler using his absolute power in the final hours of his regime. The scale of the operation still amazes experts. Moving $1 billion in cash is not easy. It weighs more than 9 tons. It fills dozens of large boxes. The fact that it was loaded into trucks in the middle of the night, right before a major war, makes it one of the most dramatic withdrawals in financial history. Some investigators even say it was the largest bank theft ever carried out by a government as the years pass. The story becomes a symbol of the chaos and corruption that existed in Iraq before and after the war. It also serves as a reminder of how quickly a country's wealth can disappear when a government collapses. For many Iraqis, the missing money represents more than just stolen cash. It represents lost opportunities, money that could have been used for schools, hospitals, roads, and electricity. Instead, it became part of a tragic chapter in the nation's history. Today, when people look back on the 2003 Iraq War, they often remember the battles, the fall of Baghdad, and the capture of Saddam. But hidden in the middle of that chaos is this unbelievable story. The night nearly $1 billion was quietly taken from the central bank, moved under the cover of darkness, scattered across the country, partly recovered, and partly lost forever. No one knows exactly what happened to the missing portion. It may still be hidden somewhere in Iraq, buried beneath a building or stored in a secret room, or it may have been smuggled out of the country and spent long ago. Until clear evidence appears, the final $300 million will remain one of the great financial mysteries of modern times, and that is how one of the largest money disappearances in history took place, not with masks and guns, but with handwritten notes, trucks in the night, and a collapsing government holding on to power for just a little longer. It is a story of fear, secrecy, and the extraordinary things people do when they believe the end is near. And so the mystery remains. Hundreds of millions from that unbelievable night in 2003 are still missing, hidden somewhere in the chaos of history. Some say the money was smuggled out of Iraq. Others believe it is still buried in secret bunkers, waiting to be discovered. But one thing is certain. The disappearance of nearly $1 billion from the central bank of Iraq is a reminder of how fast power can crumble, and how easily a nation's wealth can simply vanish. As the world moves on, the unanswered questions continue to echo through time, and the truth may never come out. If the audience enjoyed this journey into one of the world's most shocking financial mysteries, they're invited to stay curious, stay questioning, and join again for the next story that history tried to hide. For watching more amazing videos like this, subscribe our channel Crime Loom.